What you saying is Esmée, and you are listening to the Say Yes Club podcast, a podcast that is here to inspire you to say yes to movement, because one day you are going to have to say no. And have we got a guest for you? Lina Nielsen, she is an East London girl and one of the world's best sprinters. She runs in the 400 metres hurdle, which arguably is one of the hardest sprint distance events, and her resume is absolutely amazing. She's won Euro Junior champs, she's got a science degree, she's got European champ medals and Diamond Leagues. And all of this after an MS diagnosis at the age of 17. And now she's got her sights set on the Paris Olympics. And since recording this podcast, she only went and got herself a bronze in the indoor world champs. Lina is one of the most positive people I have ever spoken to. And in today's podcast, we discuss joy, setbacks, and committing to a goal. I absolutely loved chatting with Lina, and I hope you love listening to this podcast. Enjoy.
Who really want it with me? I'm at the top, that's one, not two or three. This real life, baby, don't make believe. I just make it look easy like ABC. I'm on it 24/7, 25/8. I just pick up the pace and I violate. I eat it all up like a dinner plate. I been on the move like I'm running late. Left, right, left, let's go. I'm unstoppable. I got money flowing in case you didn't know. They used to doubt me, now I got them like wow. Making boss moves, I've been on a roll. Bomb blowing up, gotta put them on hold. I am the bag, that's what I've been told. I keep my cool under pressure like a boss. I'm all in, it don't matter what it costs. All I do is win and look good from the top. Let's go!
Lina, welcome to the Say Yes Club podcast.
Thank you for having me. I felt like this was going to be a good conversation.
I'm so excited because we just spent about half an hour chatting for ages, and then I was like, I need to stop because I want to hear all of this on the podcast.
Yeah, we were running our mouths.
It's going to be a good convo.
Yeah.
When I found out that you said yes to this, I honestly couldn't believe it. I was like, nah, you're lying.
It's the Say Yes podcast. Of course I had to say it.
And this is what comes with it. This is the thing. When I have that word in front of people,
Yeah.
like if I wear like my T-shirt with a Say Yes Club on, I'm like, do you want to do a half marathon with me? And they like look at my logo and they're like, yes. You can't say no.
You actually can't say
Because
no.
it's in your face.
Positive.
So like, is that a good thing or not?
It's a really good thing. Like
Getting
it's
people
telling
to
me.
do things. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful and I'm so excited to have a chat with you. I want to take it back. This is what we're going to do. It's really good just to know where it all kind of begun for you in terms of like activity and sport and fitness. I love to know, is it something that you've done all your life as a kid, or did you find it at some point? Tell us it from the start.
Do you know, I always say to people, like, I was just in the right place at the right time. So I grew up in East London, which is where the 2012 Olympics were
Big up.
hosted. Leytonstone, East London. And so through school, like, there were all these initiatives to like get kids into sport, because it was one of the 2012 legacies was to get kids into sport. So I just remember like pre-primary school, they knocked down the old Victorian building, built this new building, and then in the place of the old building they built this like multi-sport purpose pitch, and it had a track on the outside. I think it was like a 172 meter track, so it wasn't like measured or anything. They just painted it on. And then I just remember like racing, like the boys wanted to beat the boys in school, and then our teachers took note and they were like, these, when I say us, sorry by the way, my twin sister, we do everything together. So our teachers kind of looked at us and was like, you know, these girls need to be put into the district championships or the borough championships. And so we just like got pushed into like competing and loved it, because we never trained for it. We never had a club or anything.
Yeah, so when you say that, are you saying literally this track, this 172 metre track turned up, or was it 176?
Something like
that. Turned up
yeah.
at your school and you just ran around it and you were good.
Because of the Olympic Games. And
that is unreal.
If that's not a legacy, I don't know what it is. Like, that was like the one thing that got us into it, was the Olympic Games. And then fast forward like 6 years after that, the Olympics came round, and again, right place at the right time. There was this initiative to get 16 to 18-year-olds who are from local boroughs to be young games makers, YGMs. That's what they call it.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, YGMs, young games makers. And our teacher, like, just on a whim, just entered us into the kit carrier pool, and she was like, let's just see if we get this. Like, and she told us once in PE class, she was like, I've just entered you girls, like 10 of you from the PE class, to be kit carriers at the Olympics. We're like, yeah, whatever. And then we got to miss PE to go do this interview process, which was in Canary Wharf. As 16-year-olds, we were like, what is going on? Like,
wow.
it felt like The Apprentice. And then on Christmas Day of 2011, our teacher called us and was like, guys, we've got the job. We're going to the Olympic Games. And we were like, what on earth is going on?
On Christmas Day. It's like, what did you get for Christmas? Oh, I'm going to the Olympics. You.
And and I don't even think we knew, like, obviously all kids know what the Olympics are, but you never know how big they are until you're there. And so the first day, like, it was packed out every single day. The first day we had the morning session, and I think we had like the 100-meter prelims. So it wasn't even like the big names, like Usain Bolt wasn't there. It was like the people from the smaller countries get a chance to qualify for the heats. And we walked out with these boxes, and the crowd just, because we walk out first and then the athletes walk out behind us. So we put the boxes down, then they can get ready for their race. And like these unknown athletes from these small countries got the biggest cheer. And it was just so loud, 80,000 people. We just couldn't believe this was the Olympic Games. Like, this is crazy. And that was really the first bite of the cherry. We were like, we want to have this. And it wasn't until we kit carried for the heptathlon 200 metres, which is where Jessica Ennis was racing. And my sister, I'm still jealous to this day, she got to carry Jessica Ennis's kit. And I remember just all of us like looking at her like, how did you manage to get like Jessica Ennis's lane? But she planned it.
Yeah. I love that.
And like when we thought that the first day was a loud cheer, when Jessica Ennis came on, she was the golden girl of the Olympics. When they said her name, oh my goodness, you would have thought the ground had opened up and like just swallowed us whole. And the camera flashes, you would have thought it was daylight. Like, it was just insane. And we turned around to our teacher, we were like, we want this. And she was like, well, the world champs are back here in 5 years, you can try. And then my sister, lo and behold, made those world championships. So that was really what started it. And we just did everything we could to get into athletics. And
like that feeling that you said of standing out there and the noise and the cheers and like the cameras and stuff like that, it must have been electric to be that young, and feel like what did that feeling feel like? Do you remember it to this day? Like, can you go back there?
Yeah, so we had the like uniforms, so it was purple and red. I think it was awful. It was an ugly colour. And we had instructions on the first day to wear these caps, that we had to wear caps. And they were like, so like these caps are so that you could look forwards. Like, don't look around, don't interact with the athletes, they need to focus. And don't like look around the stadium, like be really professional. We were like, yeah, we got this, got the job, did the interviews. We're ready. And then as soon as Jessica Ennis's name got called and the crowd cheered, all of us, even the officials on the track, the people, like the photographers, we all just looked around like, what on earth? It was just so, like, you actually couldn't hear anything. You couldn't hear yourself think. It was so loud. And like, we all just looked around. And for Jessica Ennis to keep her cool, I just don't know how she did that. But the one thing I remember was we were stood, and I remember seeing Jessica Ennis because I was in the outside lane. So she was kind of in my line of sight. And she was so calm. And I just thought, she's just a normal human being who just pushed herself. And I was like, why can't we do that? Like, we're young, we've got time, we could do that. And that was one of the takeaways from that day, was these are normal human beings. Like, they're not, I think we think of Olympians as like these superpowers and superhumans, but actually we're all just people. And I remember that thought so clearly, like so clearly, like, this is just a person. Like, why don't we just go and do this? And we did.
And it is wild because when you say that and you say, like, you know, she's just normal, she's just a human, I think a lot of us can relate to that feeling. Because even when I sit in front of you and I was asking you all these questions before, and I was like, what do you eat? Like, how do you sleep? Like, all of these questions. And you were just answering, and you were talking obviously about having your YouTube channel with your sister, and you were like, yeah, I've got a food Instagram account. And I'm like, oh, she's just like me.
Just like doing it. We're all just doing it.
Going out there in the world trying to show her passion. And it's, I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling, and I think a lot of people hold themselves back because of that feeling. You must understand the feeling of people putting you on a pedestal and thinking, oh yeah, but you're just different, when actually you were just that young girl, like any other young girl who was inspired by something and wanted to do something with it. Can you relate, you know, the feeling of you know, when you got excited and you heard the crowds cheering? Can you kind of relate that to a kind of physical feeling now? Have you put that into your training or put that into, you know, what you do now?
Yeah, so one of the things that I was aiming for was in my career to have a home championship. So I was like, I need to experience what Jessica has experienced. So it's always in my like training sites. Whenever I think of those hard sessions, I think, okay, what are you doing this for? And so I always use that feeling. It just felt like an out of body, like you couldn't really hear yourself think, but you couldn't even feel your body. It was just like, I didn't control where my head was looking. I was just looking around at all these camera flashes. And I actually had the opportunity to compete at the 2022 Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. Wow. And that was 35,000 people. So not as much as the Olympic Games, but still a lot of people.
But cheering for you.
For me. And like, do you know what? The thing is, people just look for the flag. So we had an England flag next to our name. So when my name got called out, it was just an eruption. And I think I have a reel on my Instagram of me just like hands to my mouth, like thinking, oh my God, this is crazy. And it was kind of like a little bit of like the feeling that I've always chased throughout my career. And we've got the World Championships, the indoor championships coming up, which is another home crowd. And it's one of the reasons I want to do it is because the home crowd, especially in Britain, like we appreciate sport so much. I don't think any other country in the world is as passionate as we are in sport. And so that's one of the things we're like, home crowd, this is going to be amazing. Like, let's just go and feel that experience.
It's just something you can't imagine, but it's crazy because when you sit and talk about it, I can feel it with you. Like you can tell you're so passionate and how much it means to you because you're talking about it. And like my cheeks are hurting because I'm like, I feel like I'm getting cheered at. But it's unbelievable because all that hard work you've obviously put in for that moment, that clap, and you say, oh, only 35,000 people. That's 35,000 people clapping their hands for you and for everything you've done. Talk to us about, so you obviously were there, you were doing the kit for the Olympics. You said, this is it, this is what I want. What was your journey after that? How did you continue?
So like I said, we were just competing at competitions. Like we didn't really train. So we were like, right, we're winning these competitions that we're getting entered for by meters. Like,
wait, let me just stop you there. So it's in like you just turned up to competition.
I remember doing the Borough Championships, 300 meters. I think I was like 14. No, the London Youth Games, which is the same youth games that Dean Asher-Smith was at. Actually, I told her about that recently. She was like, no way. We were like 13, and I won by like 6 meters, which is huge in the 300 in the sprints. And I remember like having so much time between me and the second person that I had like keeled over to catch my breath, and I looked like, as you keel over, I looked underneath like my shoulder and people were still running to the finish line. Wow. And I remember that and I was like, do you know what, we have talent, like I know that we have talent, so let's try and train.
And you remember feeling that? How old were you then?
So when we decided to take it seriously, we were 16, Because
that's interesting what you just said there, and I want to highlight that because I feel like a lot of people listening can resonate with this. When you saw that moment and went, I've got talents, so if I actually trained I could do better. I feel like there's a lot of people out there that are quite natural at things and they hold themselves back, and actually they have that kind of wake up moment where they go, I'm actually quite good at this without training. Imagine if I train. I'm actually good at this without eating properly, or without sleeping properly, or without cutting out alcohol. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's a really important thing to highlight here for the listeners is we've all got something, haven't we? 100%. We definitely have. And if you harness it and go, oh, if I'm all right at that, imagine if I tried. And it's amazing at such a young age that you had that wake up moment.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, 16 years old.
16,
I was at the park.
I know.
I mean, drinking WKD.
Really? That's funny. No, I think like also you should think, how many times has someone told me as well, like our teachers are telling us, like, you guys have a talent, like you have this. And so like think about a moment in your life where, I don't know, maybe you've cooked a meal for your friends and people go, wow, you're a good chef. And like, maybe you could do something with that. So that's always, a good reminder to have. But when I was 16, I think we had each other, like me, I always say us, I always talk in in that kind of tense, because it's like, we always did it together. So we kind of said, let's look for our local club. So we Googled it, as you do, and found our first athletics club, which was Woodford Green and Essex Ladies. And we just turned up one day and said, hey, we want to be part of this, which I think is everything. Like, there's always a community out there for you. And we started off with cross country. Didn't work for us. We went down to 15, didn't work for us, went down to 800. By the time we were 18, so 2 years, we had found out that we were actually sprinters. We weren't distance runners like we thought we might be. And we went to one of these competitions, which is like a national league, with our club. And our first coach was there. And we had run the 800 meters. And he just came up to us. Like it was like a guardian angel. He came up to us and he was like, you guys are not sprinters. You're 400 meter runners. And that was Frank Adams, my first coach. And I still text him to this day. He's about to turn 80, which is crazy. And he was like, if you do this, 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 and this, you'll be a good 400 meter runner. And we just went, can we train with you? And he went, yes. And then for the next 4 years, we trained with him. And then a year later, my sister had her first GB best. And 2 years later, I had my first GB best, which it was just such a whirlwind journey. Yeah.
And when, again, you were such a young age, but I still feel like no matter what age you are hearing this, you could like learn from this. When you said you just turned up and went, can we train with you? Like, did you say Wanstead?
Woodford, yeah.
Woodford, sorry.
Yeah.
Like, can you talk me through that? Like, what gave you the guts and the confidence to do that? Right. Obviously, I can imagine it is your sister, like one thing, but help us.
Yeah, do you know what? One of the pieces of advice I always give is find someone to do it with, because I could never go to a club on my own and just like see, like when you go to, I remember like you go to this club and there's already like a group of athletes running together and train and warming up together, and they kind of have this like close-knit community, and you think, can I like get into this intricate web of these athletes? But when you go with your sister, you're kind of like, you're starting together, so you will, the start of anything will always feel bad. Like you'll always feel like the worst beginner, but it's nice when you're doing it with someone, because at least you both look ridiculous in a way, or like you're both, you know, learning something for the first time, which is always really tricky to do. Like you have someone that's there with you in the journey. So I always say to this day, find someone to do it with, someone to hold you accountable. So like, for example, if you're going to turn up for a 5 p.m. gym session, you know, someone else is going to be there. So even when you lack motivation, you have that friend or that family member or someone that you've maybe reached out to who wants the same thing, for you both to do it together and to experience that journey together. So yeah, definitely my twin sister was, yeah.
And it's so, do you know what, it's really refreshing to hear that, because I feel like we've been so conditioned and like told that like self-motivation is a positive thing.
Yeah.
Because I think people look at me, because I obviously work in fitness and do things in fitness, and they're like, you're so motivated. And I think I'm not. I'm motivated if I'm, like you said, meeting someone or doing it with someone, because I love movement and socialising through movement.
Yeah.
So for me, going to do it with someone means more to me than doing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to hear, because I think, you know, we judge ourselves so much where we're like, I'm not self-motivated and I need someone to do it with. Yeah. And it's actually okay to admit it, to just be like, actually having someone to do it with is the reason my gift is, you know, even stronger, and like my ambition is even better. And it's nice to hear you say that, because I suppose for athletes, as you know, it can be quite an individual sport, can't it? And you are probably quite lonely with it. So knowing that you've got your sister there must, you know, be so impactful for you.
Yeah, definitely. And like track and field, they say, is a lonely sport because you're in your own lane and you really have to show up for yourself. But what's that saying? Discipline shows up when motivation doesn't. Like, I think there's not one athlete out there that will tell you they're motivated 24/7. Like half the time I'm like, oh, do I really want to go do this track session?
I'm so glad you just said this.
I'm like, honestly, I feel like I'm demotivated more than I am motivated. But it's the discipline. It's the knowing that my coach is going to be there at 9:45 every day to tell us what to do. Like, he's going to be there, so I can't just like leave him high and dry. Like, he's going to be there. My sister's going to be there. We have a training group. Like, they're all going to be there. So,
and it feels great after.
Yeah.
So I always say, if you could bottle up that feeling after and then drink it when you're getting ready to leave, like you're leaving the house. Do you know what I mean?
And they always say the hardest part is leaving the house, because then you know you're going to feel good after any movement. Yeah.
And it's so nice hearing about yours and your sister's relationship. It's something that's, you know, you started this journey together, and just recently last weekend you two were obviously at the World Champs together. British Champs, sorry. That's next.
Yeah.
And you came first and second. I mean, tell us about that. That's so cool, isn't it?
It's the first ever gold and silver won by twins in British history.
That's just unreal cool. Alone.
Do you know what? So one thing I'm not doing this year is chasing times. Last year I'd missed out on the World Champs qualification by 0.06 seconds.
Wow.
Which is nothing. It's like 5 centimetres, which is ridiculous. And I was chasing those 0.6 seconds, and it always left me just really sad that I never got it. So I said, this year I'm not chasing time. So we go into every race with a clear plan. And then we went into the British Championships with a plan to run the heats fast enough to get a good lane in the semi, run the semi fast enough we wanted the 2 outside lanes. And so we ran our semis hard and we got the 2 outside lanes. So they said the Nielsen twins or the Nielsen family in the outside lanes 5 and 6. And then we sat there the evening before the final, we said, right, let's have a clean race. Like, let's think about this. Because when we raced together 7 years ago, we were elbowing each other because with the indoor 400, you have to run the first lap in lanes, and then you all break into lane 1, and then you run the second lap in a line, everyone in lane 1. So you want to be at the break first. And so we said, right, my sister's clearly, like, she's faster, and that I'm okay with that. So we said, right, you break first, I'll follow in close behind. And then we said, when you go to the back straight, that's when people try to overtake. So I was like, right, on the back straight, I'll go wide in lane 1 so no one can overtake. You'll have a clean race and I'll follow closely behind. And we did exactly what we said we were going to do. Like, we had a plan, and that's the one thing that's different this year is we have a plan going into every single race. And if we get a good time, we get a good time. But I'm not chasing times this year, and it's really proving to be a really good mindset, because I'm not attaching any emotion into races. I'm just sticking to the plan, doing what I need to do. And then, I was really surprised to see personal best. So I think that's the one motto of life I'm doing. I'll just stick to the plan.
It's unreal. Like, even just to hear you like talk about, the plan and making it with your sister, like that is special.
Yeah.
It's, I don't think you might realise, because you might get told a lot and you might tell yourself, but to be in a competitive sport like that with your sister and to work together is unbelievable. Like, it's so nice to hear it.
Yeah.
It's just so special, and like clearly you and your sister have such a good bond. Like, tell us about you and your sister's relationship outside of sport, and tell us a bit more about that, because it's just so nice to hear.
So twin sisters, they always say you just have a different bond, and it's nice like to be in a sport. So we do slightly different events, so I think that always helps, because we're not fighting each other for spots. So she does the 400 meters, I do the 400 meter hurdles, and then we can hopefully come together in the relay, which we will do at the World Indoor Champs, make up half the relay team. But it's nice to kind of relinquish ego. So like for me to sit there and accept that my sister's faster, that's a really mature place to be. And my coach was like, right, we don't want any messy races. Like, let's just say it now. Right, your sister's faster. And it's nice to kind of have like that kind of maturity to say, actually, yeah. Because there's actually another duo in the Netherlands, Femke and Lieke. They're really fast, really fast Dutch athletes. And they're also the same. Like, they know Femke's faster, so they'll let Femke go out for hard, and then Lieke follows close behind. So we kind of looked at them and said, if they're doing it, and they're actually like in similar events, then we should be able to do that. So it's just looking at it in a mature way and in a professional way, and knowing that this is sport, and let's just like try and stay out of trouble. That's really nice. But outside of the track, we're best friends, like that twin bond. It's just so different. It's like having another version of you. Like, we know each other so well. Like, actually the other day my sister started a sentence with, I have a white shirt, and I finished it with, that is missing. I just knew where she was going with it. She was like, how did you know I was going to say that? Like, it's just having another version of yourself. And we're like super best friends. We have a dog together. We own the dog together, and we live together in Denmark, which can be lonely in itself. And we love all of the same things. So it's really just like having a best friend.
Yeah. And has
for life.
There's obviously been times as well where you must have had to support each other, because even you were saying then, when you said how you missed out on that time by like 0.06 seconds, which just blows my mind, but that's a thing. Like 5 centimeters, I'm like, I think my thumb is like longer than 5 centimeters. It's mental. How does it work then when you like have a failure, if that's what you'd call it? How does it feel like? Because I think we can like look at athletes and again put them on a pedestal, and we always see like the golds, the silvers, the bronze, and then we see winning, and we see this and PB and all of that, and it's like, okay, like how does it feel to fail, and how do you support yourself and each other during times like that?
Yeah, so it was really actually quite difficult, because I missed out on the World Championships, so I didn't go, but my sister went, and the same thing happened for the 2021 Olympics. I had the qualifying standard and got beaten at the Olympic trials and didn't go to the Olympics. And I remember like when they called me and said, you haven't been selected, I was just a mess. And then my sister got the call to say she had been selected. So it was kind of like a bittersweet moment. I really wanted to be happy for her, but I remember saying, well, at least one of us is going. So it's kind of like, it was nice to have that moment. So it kind of made it a bit nicer to know that my sister was going to the Olympics. So it kind of took away a bit of sadness, but at the same time I just thought, we could have gone together. So we do support each other. Like, I don't think she really got to celebrate the fact that she went to the Olympics, because she was trying to support me, and I kind of almost lived vicariously. So she was sending me everything through like WhatsApp and Instagram of everything that she was doing at Olympics. So it kind of felt like we were almost experiencing it together. So in a way, I don't really feel like I missed out that much. But at the same time, that moment of knowing you're not going to a championships is just soul crushing, and you will do everything you can to never experience that again. So in a way, it fueled such fire, because the year after Olympics, I had one of the best seasons of my life. I did everything I could. I went teetotal, like completely, like no alcohol for the whole year, like even birthdays and Christmas, like nothing, and paid off. And then really looked at my nutrition, and I don't think I would have done those things had I not experienced a failure. Like, you really just sharpen up and you do everything you can to get to a better place and to never have that happen again. And that's kind of happening this year as well, because I missed out on the World Champs last year and it's Olympic year, so I'm not having that happen this year, no way.
And it is amazing again how taking a failure, and I don't really like using that word, but we know what it means generally, taking something like that, and how you said like harnessing it and turning it into energy, and like turning it into like fight, because it is absolutely fine and normal to just quit, isn't it? Like like you are one of the rare ones, but it's actually normal to want to quit something and not want to do it again, or thinking, well, that's it now, that was my time. And yeah, I just think, again, you're very unique in that sense, aren't you? And you probably don't realise it, or you do, that you harness that and you made it push you into being better.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any track athlete out there that won't tell you that they thought of quitting. Like we all think of quitting at least 10 times a year. We're like, do you know what? It's not for me. I don't want to do this anymore. But I think because you're so close to a goal, like 0.06 seconds, or the fact that I was had the Olympic standard and there were 3 spots and 4 girls and I was the 4th girl that missed that. Like those like little moments of being so close kind of stops you from quitting, because you're like, oh, but I was so close. And I think if you look at like any kind of journey that you're on and you think, I'm better than I was this time last year, or better than I was when I started, you're closer to what your goal is. And if you're that close and you've made that much headway, why would you then quit? Like think about, okay, what can I fix? And then go ahead and do that and do everything you can, because you were so close. And I think that's the one nice thing about sport, is that it's so objective. Like we have these times and these standards to hit, but even in like other goals, it's like look at other marks or like checkpoints that you have and mark them, or like compare them to when you started, and use that, because I think there's probably someone out there who wants to be where you are, and look at that and use that as fuel to just keep going to what your goal is.
100%. And would you say your fighting spirit comes from like previous, past experiences? As we know, when you were in your teens, you were diagnosed with MS. And would you say that's a contributing factor to how you just responded then, because it is unique. And when we say, oh, I didn't get it, so then I done everything and I went teetotal, I did things like this. And in the past, I've had an accident where I've faced adversity and I've come back from it. And I know for sure that gave me a bit of fire, because I don't think I can ever quit again.
Yeah.
I don't think I physically can, because I think if I was going to quit, that little voice inside me would be like, you're absolutely not going to do it. Do you relate to that? Would you say you've got a little bit of extra va-va-boom of fire because of your experiences in the past?
Yeah, 100%. I resonate with everything you're saying. Like even before we started recording, and you explained that you say yes is because at some point you've had to say no, or you will have to say no. Like that is just the nail on the head. Like just having that experience where you couldn't, and then now knowing that you can, why would you stop? Like that's just like no, that is not an option. It's definitely given me a purpose, 100%. So I got diagnosed with MS when I was a month before my 18th birthday, and my sister was still training, so that's when we started with Frank, our first coach, and she was training and I couldn't train, I couldn't walk. So I was just like, this really, like, it's really hard to see this. But then I just remember like everything that I went through, like the doctors, I remember saying to the doctors, I'm going to go to the national championships. I can't take, they wanted to prescribe me with steroids. I didn't know back then I didn't know there's a difference between the anti-inflammatory steroids that they give you and anabolic steroids, which are illegal. And I remember saying, no, I can't take steroids. I'm going to the national championships. Oh. And the doctors were like, oh, honey, like really patronising.
The innocence.
Like, yeah, patronising, going, oh, I don't think that's going to happen for you, because it was like a month later and I was hospitalised for like 3 days.
So they were looking at it more like, you were obviously like, I can't take them to the Olympics. They're like, no, you're probably not going Olympics. Yeah. It's probably what they were feeling inside, but they'd not met you.
Yeah, they were like, your life is over. I was like, right, whatever. So I said no to the steroids, which I'm glad I did, because I've recently taken steroids and that's the worst thing I could have done. But anyway, that's besides the point. But I remember just having this thought of saying like, all of this is not going to be for nothing. Like I'm going to make something of this, and I'm going to get back to walking, get back to running. And I remember just really mature actually at 18, like going to Frank and saying, right, obviously I'm not going to go to the World Junior Championships like my sister, but I want to set myself a goal of going sub 57 in the 400. And he was like, okay. Like, wow. And I honestly, my first coach is just my guardian angel. He never like questioned my ability ever. And it does help to have someone in your corner like that. And we kind of had like a mini training camp where like once I got running again, so it took me a few months, where he basically started from scratch with me, and like one-to-one sessions, like just bless him, 70-year-old man back then, like did everything he could to get me to this goal of like sub 57. He was a volunteer coach as well, by the way, so like not even getting paid for this. And then I ran the English Schools Championships, which is a milestone for a lot of professional athletes. And in the heats, I just went for it and I ran 56.95, which was my sub 57. And I just remember saying, look what I did when I put my mind to it. And I remember like doing it for myself to kind of show past me, like, this is not going to be for nothing. And ever since then, like, that's been I always say, like, I'm doing it for my 17-year-old self, like I'm doing it for her. And like going to the Olympics would just be for 17-year-old me, like just to say, this is not going to be for nothing, like doing all of this. So yeah, it's definitely given me a unique drive and a unique purpose. And I say it now that I've spoken publicly about it, but it has given me that drive and to never quit, because I'm not going to let 17-year-old me down. No way. That's not happening.
Literally gives me goosebumps. And it's so interesting because our stories actually run really parallel, because I was 18 as well when my accident happened, and there's so many moments in that I really can relate to, and like the kind of young us, which I'm so grateful for. I was a dancer, I used to dance, and I said, I've got to go dance college. Like, so I was paralysed from waist down going, I'm going dance college in 6 weeks time, and they're like, the same thing, bless you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, very like, but don't you love that innocence?
Yeah.
And I never want to lose that. Yeah. And I don't think I ever will. And I think that's really important for listeners to hear as well, is I love that part, your innocence in it, but you meant it.
Yeah.
It was like there was willpower in there, but there was an innocence of, oh yeah, like I know I'm not doing that, but I will go to the Olympics. You know, that kind of vibe. And people can kind of go, bless you, or laugh at that.
Yeah.
But look what you're doing now, and it's so incredible. And yeah, it is hard because not everybody's been through something like that. And I do think it is my power, and I'm sure you feel like the same about it. And you can never really describe it to people, but what we can do is keep showcasing what is possible and like what you're doing to make people feel motivated. Because I almost wish people could feel how we felt. Do you know what I mean? Like people could another one.
Yeah,
we'd be millionaires, but I feel what it feels like to not have it.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
I know what you mean. Yeah, because I almost think, like, you talk about innocence, but I think in a way we had this bliss ignorance, like to like not listen to the negative thoughts. And I think it really is important for like people like us to like really speak about the positive experiences, because I feel like we only ever see the negative like impacts that people have. Actually, I'm part of this group chat called the MS Together, so I'm an ambassador for that charity, and I love everything they're doing. And sometimes I like read the messages on the group chat, because sometimes I feel like I can't really chime in. I'm not on medication, I'm not on treatments, but someone put that they're going on a certain treatment, I think it's called Kesimpta, and they went, I don't know about this treatment, like I always see these negative reviews, like people saying that they've lost their hair and people saying that they've got osteoporosis from it. And someone in the group chat replied back with, no one's ever going to put a review in how good it's been. Everyone always talks about how negative it's been, because that's the only thing that you can really like complain about, so that it's people hear it and make it like go work on the research for that drug. And so no one would ever like go out their way and write the positive thing. So I think in a way that's why we only ever see the negative like stories and stuff, because it's easy to complain, but it's not easy to take time out of your day and actually go and write about the good stuff. So I think it's really important to share as many stories as possible, and like how possible it can be, and how on the flip side of that, how if you put your mind to it, like how something could come out of it. And I think I'm hopefully doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, because just by telling the positive stories and sharing your messaging and speaking out about it, because it must have been really tough for you to make the decision to speak out. Like, you know, I imagine there was an element of denial in there, an element of judgment, an element of people seeing you in a different light. Like how, again, you were so young when you experienced, you know, the symptoms, and then you got diagnosed. How did that feel then, as opposed to now? It's like acceptance and speaking out and being honest.
Yeah.
But how was it then when it wasn't spoke about and you kept it to yourself? Talk us through that.
Yeah, so when I got diagnosed, I couldn't even tell my twin sister actually for about 3 months. Like just the letters M and S, like even just looking at the supermarket, Marks and Spencer's M&S, I couldn't even look at that. I was like, no, denial. Like it was hard for me to think about those 2 letters, so I couldn't speak about it at first. And then when I turned like 21, so between 18 and 21, I actually had a lot of symptoms. Like I don't know what was going on in that period of my life, but it was like.
And if you don't mind, like for listeners that don't maybe know about it, what were, if you don't mind saying, like what were the symptoms for you?
So I actually had my first symptom or relapse of MS. So I've got relapsing remitting MS, so where you experience symptoms and then you could make a full recovery, which I have for most of my relapses, which I'm really, really lucky and really fortunate to have. But my first ever relapse was when I was 13. I had no idea. We didn't even know what MS was. I had a weak left arm, so I just woke up one day and just couldn't hold anything. But I'm not left-handed, so I didn't really notice it. Kind of brushed it underneath the carpet, and then my mum was the one that noticed it. She was like, "Why are you not using your left arm?" And I said, "It's not really working, Mum. I don't know what's going on." So she went to the doctors. They all said it's sign of a stroke, but she's 13. We can't diagnose her with a stroke. So we went bounced around from doctors, nurses, and no one could really give an answer. It was so unknown. I wouldn't say unknown, but it wasn't the first thing that would come to doctors' minds, and for a 13-year-old girl. So we kind of just brushed it underneath the carpet. My mum actually flew us back home to Egypt to find doctors because she thinks that Egyptian doctors are the best in the world. She was like, "We're going back home." So we flew to Egypt. None of the doctors there could give me answers. I eventually recovered, so we kind of just forgot about it. And when I say I forgot about it, I completely forgot about it, didn't remember it. And then when I was 17, I had some double vision. So that was the next symptom that I had. But that lasted 5 days, and I kind of got round.
I love how you're like, that was 5 days.
5 days.
I'm like, if I had double vision of 10 seconds, I'd be like, hey.
I remember walking to college, because I went to college in Islington, St Islington, sixth form college, and I remember I always would cross the road not at a zebra crossing or a pelican crossing, but I remember when I had double vision I was like, right, I can't see, so maybe I should go to these zebra crossings.
I just love even the resilience then 5 days of double vision, you're like, oh, just start using the crossings.
I'll start using it properly actually. Again, because I didn't know what it could be, and I just part of me thought, part of me thought it was puberty. I thought maybe my body is changing and my eyes are too big for my head or something. I don't know.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they did tell us it was puberty back then. It's we didn't have anything for women's health. They're like, yeah, don't worry, that will happen. I would have believed it as well.
I kind of just thought something's going on, but I'm not too worried about it. But then when 6 months after that, I had right-sided weakness, everything. So right arm, torso,
wow.
My breathing was affected. I was breathing more on the left. It was so weird. And then eventually it got to the point where I couldn't walk. I crashed down from my bed, and my mum was downstairs. I was upstairs. I just crashed, fell on the floor, and she was like, "Right, we're going to find some answers. We're going to the hospital." And then I went to the hospital again, explained my symptoms. Doctors have no idea. They just couldn't tell me. And then we were actually on the way home. I was like, "I want a Chinese takeaway, Mum." So we went to a Chinese takeaway, and then she got a phone call, and she was like, "Are you still here? Is your daughter still here?" And then we were like, "No, we just left." And they were
like, "No, she's tucking into sweet and sour chicken balls."
I want Kung Pao chicken. And then they were like, "She needs to come back right now. This is serious." So got booked into an emergency MRI, and then the next morning got the MRI, and then they kind of were like, "There's some inflammation in your brain. We think this might be MS, but we don't know. We're just going to call it a clinically isolated symptom," which is the first thing that you get diagnosed with, CIS. And so I remember hearing MS. I was like, "Okay, whatever," but that's not me. They just have to say that. And then we got called into another appointment in February. So this happened in December. The paralysis on the right side. I recovered. At that point, I was kind of recovered. I could walk, but it was limping, and I could write, but not so much. So I had a laptop at sixth form, and I was like, everyone wants to use my laptop. I again always saw the positives of these things.
Yeah, I'm noticing a trend here.
I had a lift pass. Everyone wanted to get into the lift.
The trend of using crossings, Chinese takeaway, laptop in school. You're just seeing everything.
I'm just positives,
It's unreal.
We had to climb these stairs, and once all these kids got into these stairs at sixth form, it took us ages to get up these stairs.
So you got a lift pass.
Got a lift pass. Everyone
there
wanted to
she
get
is.
to the lift. I was like, "Yeah, come with me." And then we got called into office, and then they were like, "Yeah, we've seen a trend here. There's 3 relapses here with 3 symptoms. You got diagnosed with MS." And I just remember, I didn't know much about it, but I knew it wasn't good news. So I just burst into tears. And my mum, bless her, English is not her first language, so she had no idea. So I'm trying to translate it for her to Arabic, and I couldn't explain it in Arabic because my Arabic is very conversational, not very much scientific. So trying to explain to her, she just kept asking me. We went to hospital in UCLH. So Euston, and then we walked towards Tottenham Court Road, and she was trying to cheer me up, took me shopping. I was just crying, getting stares from people. I was just in tears, and then went home, just went straight to bed. I was like, I'm not telling my sister anything.
Wow.
So it was awful.
When you were in tears, what was it in your head what were you crying about? And I'm not being, I obviously know.
Yeah.
But can you tell us, what do you remember feeling?
It felt like a life sentence, because they said, this is a chronic illness, which I was studying A-level biology. So I think we touched on MS. like at the first part of doing biology. So I remember seeing like in the textbook like someone in a wheelchair, and then so they said this is chronic, so lifelong and incurable. So I was like, this is a life sentence. I'm going to end up in a wheelchair like the guy I saw in the textbook, and I want to go to the national championships. Like, this isn't fair. Like, I want to do athletics. I just like came back from the Olympics. So the Olympics was summer of 2012. I got diagnosed in February of 2014. So it literally just felt like yesterday that I went to these Olympics and said that this is my dream. So it felt like a life sentence. I was like, right, my life's over. I'm not even 18. Like, my life's over. I think at first denial was good. Because I brushed it underneath the carpet and just continued anyway. And I went back to the track. All my friends were like track athletes. So I just wanted to go see my friends. So I want to go see my mates. And I just did track because, so I remember like going back to the track in like May of 2014. So 3 months after my diagnosis. And I was a little bit, the movement was better. So I was like learning how to, I remember jogging 200 meters was so hard. I was like, this is so hard. And my coach was like, look, just jog 200 meters today and tomorrow we can try a full lap. And then the next day he was honestly just he's an angel. And eventually I got back to running. And then in August was when I did my sub 57. And then I was like, you know what? I just saw my sister get a great British best. I want one. And I remember going to Frank going, so Frank, I broke 57 seconds like I said I would. I want to make the relay team next year. And he was like, okay. And then it was just like, right, we're going to do it. And I just didn't think about MS. Like, it was in the back of my mind, but I just didn't. I was like, let me just try and hold on for as long as possible. Because in my head, I was like, I've got a year. I've got 2 years. And now it's been 10 years later and I'm still running. So really blessed, really fortunate every single day that I get to do this. And yeah, funnily enough, when I spoke publicly about it, this was in 2022, so almost 2 years ago now. I was still in a little bit of denial. Like, I had come to accept it, but I wasn't confident speaking about it. But like, the one thing I didn't expect from telling my story was how empowering it would be, and how now I want to be like an advocate for people with MS. And now I want to be part of these charities, and I want to like scream it from the rooftops how possible like life can be. And the community of people with MS is so huge. When I told my story, it was released on I want to say The Guardian first or The Independent, and I was on BBC Breakfast, and my inbox, like my DMs were just crazy, and all these people going, thank you so much, like I didn't think it's possible, I play football, I do skiing, and I was just like, wow, like this is really empowering. And I'm so glad that I tell my story now. Like, it's just the one good thing to come out of that was that.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting when you think your brain told you, your kind of brain was like, don't tell anybody because it's going to label you, and then you're not an athlete, or you're not this, or you're not that. When actually, by opening up about it, it's not only inspired so many other people, it's probably inspired you to be, how you just said, a more open person and a more honest person. And it's so crazy, isn't it? Because you think you want to keep things to yourself, and then when you hear these people go, oh, and then I opened up about it and my inbox was full. Like, of course it was. Isn't it funny? Of course it was. Like, we just imagine, oh, everyone's going to boycott me and that's it, I'm out, and no one's going to like me anymore.
No one's going to believe me.
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
Yeah, and that must that's quite interesting. That must be quite a hard thing. Like, it's an invisible. It's an invisible thing that's happening to you, isn't it? It's not like you walk around with a sign on your head saying, I've got MS. And I can really relate to that. After what happened to me, I have episodes where I lose sensation in my left leg. So it will just go. It will just completely go. I can't stand on it. I can't use it. And it will come back. And my recent episode was 6 weeks. And they're usually about 2 to 3 days. And it was that time I found really hard because everyone was getting used to it around me. And it's not that I wanted everyone to talk about it either, because I'm quite like, I like keep it to myself, and I'll carry on doing things. But it felt really weird because I'd be like, I don't want you all to talk about it, but I also want you kind of to know I've got a dead leg. So even when I'm out walking and coming upstairs and bopping around and doing my thing, my leg's not working properly. It's quite lonely, isn't it? Yeah. And I think by speaking up, and I didn't in this last recent one, I didn't tell anyone for 6 weeks. Right. And at the end of it, I did when it came back. Yeah. And then I felt so supported. Yeah. But you can really isolate yourself, can't you?
Yeah, I think you're always scared of like the stigma that you might get. Oh, like she can't, like she's ill. Like,
my life was over because I thought any brand out there, gym, brand, event, anything that knows about this, that's all my work gone. That's what I truly decided in my brain. I went, if anyone knows that I've got a dead leg at the moment, I'm going to lose every single brand deal I've got.
Yeah.
And isn't that really sad?
It is really sad. But yeah, because again, it goes back to like talking about the negatives and like, so in my case where people talk about MS and it's like, let me rephrase, not negative, but it's the dire symptoms that you hear about, so the wheelchair and stuff. People always relate MS to that. And actually, when I joined this MS Together charity, it's for young people between 18 to 35. And again, you think MS, you think old person. And it's actually no, like most people that get diagnosed are young people. Like I was 13 when I had my first symptom. Like I expect someone who was 10 years old. People get diagnosed in their teens, in their 20s. And 20s are such formative years. And all these people, I remember walking to the room, I just said yes to going to this, I had no expectations, going to this ambassador event. It was like a charity event. And it was their launch. And I just was like, I'll show face. Like, you know, I'm sure no one there really knows who I am, but I'll just go. And then I walked in and I was just so surprised. All these young people, exactly like me, just getting on with life and doing as much as they can. Like, I just was like, why don't we know more about this? Why do we always hear about the hard times? And it was just so nice. And I was like, I want to be part of this. Amy's the founder. I was like, Amy, can I be part of this? And she was like, yeah, let's get you in. So now I'm an ambassador and I like scream from the rooftops about them because it's just so nice to have that positive spin on it. And to go, I went to this event, believe it or not, I was sat right next to my consultant, my neurologist. I was like, Dr. Chung, it's nice to see you here. Like, this is so weird. I never would have thought I'd be sat at a social event with my neurologist. And yeah, just sat in the room with people. We were laughing about like the fact that I remember saying one time my legs went numb and I felt like a floating torso. We would just laugh about it. Like back then, people was just so sad about it, and we're here like laughing at ourselves. Like, this is so crazy. And I just wish that there are more communities and more people out there with different, like, so in a case like yours where you can just go and say like, oh, my leg's dead. Like, isn't that funny? Like, just have a laugh with it. And it's, I think it just takes people just speaking about their experiences like we are now.
Yeah, and I think like just your energy and you know, you're incredible in how you do deliver it, and you are really positive, and it is funny.
Annoying, isn't it?
No, but it's funny because I meet positive people. I'm one of them. Like, and you meet them and you're like, you're really positive. And I think I said this to someone else before. The word's not good enough for you. You you are just
doing it.
You're just a light, and it's so amazing. You're amazing to be around, and you are right. It is funny.
It's funny,
It is funny sometimes. Like some of the conversations I've had around what happened to me, you've got to laugh about it. And I think one thing that you've really made clear is, I think you keep talking about, you know, what the positives are, and, you know, let's talk about what is amazing about, you know, not what's amazing about MS, but what can be amazing having MS, right? And I think this is what this podcast is all about. It's encouraging people to say yes, because one day they're going to have to say no. And why do people say no? Because they're scared. And negativity feeds fear. Yeah. It's brilliant, because it's like, if I'm scared to do something, talk about all the negative things around it, because then that will, you know, give me an excuse not to do it. And you're actually that annoying person like me who's like, no, but these are all the positive things that come out of it. And I think people listening right now, if there's anything that they want to do, they're probably doing the thing that we spoke about. What are the negatives of doing that, though? What could go wrong? What bad things could happen? And what could be the after effect of it? And so, no, what could go right? And actually, this is why it's important to have people like you speaking out, because you're saying, you know, you're an incredible athlete with a gift, but you're, you know, someone that's every day dealing with the thoughts around MS, because it's a lingering thought, right? Yeah. Even when your symptoms are down, you're thinking. I imagine you're saying, when's my next relapse going to be?
I wake up every day, check if my body's functioning. I'm like, right, can I see? Like, is my right leg okay? Like, it's every day, but. Yeah, at the same time, it's like, okay, once I've checked, it's like, hey, everything's fine. I'm just going to go smash it today. Like, it's a driving force. It really is.
And there's so much people can take out of that, right? Because you don't have to have MS to do that assessment. Every morning, wake up and go, can I move my arm? Can I move my leg? Can I see? Let's have it then. Yeah. And I think that's a really good takeaway from this, what you've given us is... You don't have to have MS to do that little self-assessment. Yeah. People can do. There's people listening right now that can. Yeah. So go do it.
Yeah. And to go back to like what you said about like, so what could go right? So in 2022, right before I spoke about MS publicly, I was at the World Championships in Oregon, had a relapse, right leg stopped working. Well, it was like slow. if that makes sense. So it's still working. It was just taking a while to fire. So it was the day before my heat. I went in ranked 13th, so there was a possibility of making the final. And I remember the preview saying like Lina Nielsen of Great Britain could make the final. I ran my race, lane 8, and I ran 57 seconds. And like the interviewer, so the post-race BBC interviewer, like live TV was like, what happened? Like she was, it was just so insensitive. I was like, I just burst into tears. I was like, I'm dealing with an illness like no one knows about. And
is that how it came out?
Yeah. So after that, so I got asked to go. I asked to go home. I was like, I need to go rest. I need to go home. I need to get some good food in. No offense, American food sucks. I was like, I need to get some good food in if I've got any chance of recovering. So I said, like, take me home. And I sat there at home, like, thinking, what now? Like, the World Champs is still going on. And actually, to go back to why I ran that race anyway, was I wasn't thinking about the previews of she might make the final. I wasn't thinking, like, well, they've given me a lane, I should go and run. The one thing that was going through my head was, are you going to regret not running at the World Championships in the future? And like, even though I couldn't move my leg, I couldn't feel my left side of my body. I was like, I'm going to regret this so much if I don't go and say I ran at the World Championships. So I was like, right, spike up, like off you go. And I was so scared, like honestly so scared, and like so many voices in my head telling me no. And I was like, just go out and just experience it. And I ran slow. I think I came last in that race. But I'm like, to this day, I'm so happy I did that, because I would have regretted it so much if I was at the World Championships and didn't run. Like that's one thing. Like, just think, are you going to regret not giving it a go? Like, just give it a go. And it was such an electric atmosphere. It was at Tracktown, USA, which is like the home of track and field. And it was still such a nice experience. Like, even though I burst into tears and it was awful and like I couldn't really like hurdle properly and stuff, like I still enjoyed it. And like I think I'll look back at this when I'm like 60, 70, like thinking, thank God you did that. But one of the voices telling me to share it publicly was like just to show like how normal it is, like that people have MS in everyday life and that it can flare up. And it was just to provide an explanation. At first was because I went in with the preview of she could make the final. It was going to be like, oh, this is why. And it just blew up. Like I got invited like to go on these like Sky News, BBC Breakfast. I was like, Finnish TV reached out, Japanese TV, Brazilian TV. I was like, what is happening? Like, this is crazy. I had to get my boyfriend, who's an agent, to manage it all, because I was like, I still got the Commonwealth Games and the European. So it was crazy. But I think a lot of people just resonated with the fact that like this happens to people, and it's a normal thing for it to happen. And yeah, and it was just such a whirlwind time of my career. It's just crazy.
I just want to say thank you so much for saying what you just said about you still went and showed up. And did you say you came last?
Yeah, I don't care.
Like, thank you from the bottom of my heart for saying that out loud, because this is what people use every day as a reason to not do things. What if I come last? What if I don't win?
What if I fall over? I was like, I can't even feel my left leg. Like,
can you imagine? You'd never have got to experience that incredible, time of your life, because your ego was like, well, you're not going to win, so why are you going?
Yeah. I just completely let go of that. I was like, right, this is not
happening.
To
hear an athlete who's, your job and purpose is to go and do the best you always can. You don't ever go out and go, oh, it doesn't matter if I come last day because I at least showed up. Like, you don't hear that. And I'm that is really powerful and so important to hear an athlete say that, because we're all out here and we ain't athletes. Like, I try and say to people all the time, like, you're not an athlete, like, you're doing a 9 till 5, just go enjoy it, go experience it. Imagine all the people that will never experience that race experience and the cheer of the crowd because they might come last. Like, so what?
So many people want to be where you are. Like, I think I remember that every single day. Like, so many people want what you have. Like, be grateful. Like, you're here, you're doing this. And I just think about the journey. It took me so long to make a World Championships. That was my first World Championships at 26, I think I was. So like quite late for like some people make it at 20, 21, and it took me till 26. And I was like, right, it took you so long. Like, all the way here. West Coast of America is not easy to get to either. Like Portland, Oregon. It's just like Eugene, Oregon. Sorry. So even like more rural. Even that travel, I was like, I'm here, like on this far edge of the world, like just go and do it. And like, God bless my boyfriend, like he was just like, I know you're going to regret not doing this. And it was actually like his nudge as well, because he just knows I'm like this person who doesn't want any regrets. And and I was like kind of like on the fence, like, do I, like, I know I'll regret it. And he was like, I think you should do it. Like,
love that.
You are going to regret it. And I did. And I don't have any regrets doing it.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
You might like regret what your expectation was, but whatever. Like you did it.
Yeah.
And like I think it's pretty clear from obviously what you've just said. But if there is someone listening right now and they want to take part in something, they want to go and try a 5K run, or they want to, enter a race, or they want to try something new.
Yeah.
What would you, as you, Lina, say to them right now if they were umming and ahhing, and the reason was because they don't have the confidence, or they don't believe in themselves, or they're maybe not physically fit enough? Like, we can go to the gym, we can do things about that. What would you, as who you are and the person you've become today, say to anyone out there listening right now?
I think as humans and as people in the Western world, we automatically want to be good at everything. And that's like normal. It's okay to have those thoughts. But if you can just try and relinquish that and just think, right, the first time of anything, I'm sure like the first recording of the podcast probably wasn't as great as you wanted it to be, but you still did it. The first time I ran was just so bad. Just see how the first time is and know that everything is a journey. The first yoga class I ever taught was absolute pile of rubbish. I look back at it now, I'm like, why did I do that? But the next one was better, and the one after that was even better. Like, it's all a journey. Like, just embark on this as a journey. And if it's not for you, and that's okay if it's not for you, at least you gave it a good go. And take someone with you, take a friend.
Yeah. I think that's been a massive takeaway for all of us today, is that take your friend, take someone with you. You don't have to do it alone, and you're not braver if you do it alone, or better if you do it alone.
Yeah.
Use your friends and your family around you to bring out the best in you as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that. I think that's my biggest takeaway. Right, so bringing it to a close, I want to ask you to set me, the crazy person I am. I want to say yes to something from you. So I want you to challenge me to do something out of my comfort zone, and I'm going to do it. So I kind of gave you a chance to begin to have a think about it, and I think I kind of know what you're going to say, but I'm ready to hear it and I'm ready to accept the challenge. What can I say yes to? Because one day I won't be able to say yes to it.
Have you ever hurdled?
I haven't.
So, to run
the thought of it actually makes me quiver.
There are two scary moments in the 400 meter hurdles: the first hurdle and the last hurdle.
Oh wow!
The first hurdle is so scary because you're literally running full pelt, like flat out sprint to this first hurdle.
Can I jog up to it?
No, you're going to run as fast as you can to this first hurdle because it's so scary. But once you clear that, the rest of it takes care of itself. But then the last hurdle, your legs are filled with lactic.
Wow. And
that's scary because you're like, am I going to be able to lift my legs and get over this? So I'm going to challenge you to run full pelt at one hurdle and then run a certain distance. You run marathons, so you can run a long distance.
Imagine marathon hurdles.
Oh God,
I'm not doing it. I'm just saying, imagine.
And then when your legs are really, really tired, do a hurdle. So 2 hurdles you've got to do.
I've got to do 2.
One fast and one with tired legs.
Wow, I love that. There's a lot of symbolicness in that, isn't there? I really like it. And what is the worst that's going to happen if I go at this hurdle and don't make it?
Right. So a lot of people are scared of falling over hurdles. That never hurts. It never hurts. You'll fall, you'll roll, and you get up again. So the worst thing you can probably do is fall, but falling doesn't hurt. You'll fall and get up and do it again.
And then just LOL. Do you know what I mean?
Laugh at yourself, yeah.
Lina, I accept the challenge and I cannot wait. Hopefully you'll be able to be there with me. But I mean, you've got so much going on. So if not, I'll be doing it with you there in spirit, and I'll be sending you the video. And just before we finish, just let us know what have you got coming up, and in 2 ways, actually. I want to know what's coming up as in the athlete world and what's coming up in your ambassador world now, and, advocating for MS and things like that. Where can we follow you and see what's going on?
So in the athletics world, really busy year. So we've just qualified for the World Indoor Championships in Glasgow, home champs. So hoping to experience that crowd again. So that's in early March, first to the 3rd, I think. And then we've got a really busy year. We've got the World Relay Championships in the Bahamas, which qualifies us for the Olympic Games. Yes. So that's a really important one. We need to qualify as a team. Yeah. So that's in May, European Championships in June, Olympic trials in July, and then Olympics in August. It's very, very busy. So
what a year, hey? The year of an athlete.
I'm so scared. So running around the track, and then, just hoping that I can do as much as I can on the track to advocate for MS. And I'm hoping to come back to London because I don't live here. And I want to get back into the yoga space, and I'd like to also teach yoga to people with autoimmune conditions like MS.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it has been amazing talking to you. I could keep going on forever. That was brilliant. And we will be supporting, following the journey. We will be watching you at the Olympics. I'm telling you that now. And
show of the year.
Cannot wait to also come and do a yoga class with you when the season ends. So yeah, thank you so much for being such an amazing guest.
Oh, thank you. It's been such a nice conversation. Yeah, I hope that you can take away a lot as well as I took from you. So
definitely.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you and goodbye. Yay!